All right, we're working on Chapter 10, and we're going to start working through some of the you-do-its here so you get an idea of how inheritance works. I am going to be using Eclipse to do my authoring tonight. You can use any program you want, but I thought that I would demonstrate this a little bit. Any of you that are going into the web developer and or software developer programs, which is probably all of you, you will have two levels of Java you have to take, Java 1 and Java 2. When we get into Java 2, we use Eclipse very heavily and NetBeans. And really, you can use any tool you want, but I want you to be kind of comfortable with how this works, so that's why I'm demonstrating the product. You might actually come to find that you like the product quite a bit and use it. And I encourage you to. So right now, I'm navigating to the folder where I want to work. Eclipse calls this a workspace. So I just got to find my Java folder here. And I'm actually going to use this entire folder as my workspace. And that just tells it where it's going to store the projects, basically. And I'm always cautious about checking this box. If you always plan to work in that same folder, great. If you separate things out by classes and semesters, that probably won't work for you. And it kind of eliminates a little bit of flexibility. You can, when you're within the program, switch the workspace. So just keep that in mind as well. All right, we'll let it finish loading. And one thing I want to remind you about Eclipse as a piece of software is that Eclipse is one of those products that doesn't technically install like a Windows program where it embeds itself into the registry of the operating system and appears on your start menu and like that. It's basically a program that you download, unzip, and just run. So you can pick it up and move it. It's a portable application. All right, so I'm going to get rid of the start screen there, and I'm going to go ahead and create myself a new Java project. And I think I'm just going to call it Chapter 10. And then I'm going to click Finish. And then this will create basically the skeleton of our project here. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that source folder and then right-click and then choose Class. I'm going to create a new class file. And then I'm going to give it a name. And I believe that the book gives us names to call things. And since the public class here is going to be called Party, that's going to be the name of the file. So we call it Party. It has to have a capital T. And I know that I pointed out to you a week or two ago that there's this box here that I can check to create a main method automatically. It doesn't mean I want you to check it right now, but I want you to be aware of that. If you're creating a program and you know you need a main method, you can just click that and it will do it. If you look at what we're doing in the book, though, there is no main method. We're creating a class that's going to be used as a blueprint to create other items, so that won't be necessary. All right, and there it creates the basic part of it. And I know my font's a little small, and I know that some of you who are probably like me, you look at screens all day and your eyes start to get a little weak from just staring at screens. So notice what I just did here. I went to Window, I chose Preferences, and then I'm kind of digging through the menus. I happen to know where this is located, and what I'm going to do basically is bump up the font size. Unlike Visual Studio, where you can just hold down Control and scroll forward, or Control plus, Eclipse does not work that way. You have to manually go in and tweak it. So Preferences under Window, General Appearance, Colors and Fonts, and then you go to Java, and then right here it says Java Editor Text Font, and then I'm going to add it. And right now it's at a 10. I'm going to move it up to, I think, a 14 will work for our needs. And then I'm going to do Apply and OK. And now hopefully you can read it a little bit better. All right, let's go ahead and go back to the book and let's start copying in the components. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to add an attribute. You could also call it a data field, variable, whatever you're comfortable with. and it's an integer, and apparently it's going to represent the number of gets that we have. Then we're going to add a set and a get for that attribute. I like to indent these myself. Now we're going to add a method, and this method is going to allow us to display the invitation. So set and get, as you can see, will allow you to indicate the number of guests basically that are going to go to a particular event. So you can set that. You would pass in a value, it would set it, and then it would become part of the object. And then to display the invitation, it's just going to very simply be something that we can call by name, and then it's going to put out this message. All right. Now that that work is done, do a Control-S to save. And we're basically done with that file for now. And hopefully you didn't get any errors. If I go ahead and try to run this, what's going to happen? Nothing? Yeah, there's nothing in there to run. All right, next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create another new file, new class file, and it's going to be called use party. So once again, I'm going to come back here to Eclipse. I'm going to right click, create a new class file, and it's going to be called use party. This one is going to have a main method if I'm not mistaken. It does. So I'm just going to click finish, and notice that it adds the main method in there. Now we need to be wary of that because as we start to paste stuff in, we want to make sure we don't duplicate that main method. Now, instead of just copying the code directly, one thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to add this stuff little by little so you can see some of the things that Eclipse does as you work with it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I notice that inside the main method, and yes, I know I'm skipping the import, and this other stuff here is already present, the public class and the static void main, you see that. So I'm going to drop in these couple of lines here. And as I do it, you're going to notice that some things are going to start to underline. The reason that we have that import is so that the scanner works. Now, I dropped in the keyword scanner, and Eclipse recognizes that the library that we need to import is not present. So what it's going to do if you hover over the underline is it says, scanner cannot be resolved to a type. 8 quick fixes available. And the first one is the one that we want, which is to import that library. But notice all these other options that are here and how those will actually perform different actions that you might intend. But in this case, we're just doing the import, and just by clicking on it, notice that the import happens. Now with these other ones, you see these little yellow things popping up in the margin here. And if you hover over it, what's it going to say? The value of the local variable guess is not used. Well, right, we haven't used it yet. Okay, thank you very much, Eclipse. So don't get the tendency to try to fix something that isn't fully implemented yet. And that's why that is in yellow and not in red. So if you write a whole program, the program works, and you come back and you see a yellow underline like this, and you're not actually using it, yeah, of course you remove it. But for now, it's going to sit as is. So we set up an int for guests, and then we created an instance of something called party. What's party? Oh yeah, that's the one that we just made over here, right? So we're creating an instance of this. So It's going to have all these capabilities. Now we're also setting up a scanner so we can get input from the keyboard. Next set of instructions here that we're going to paste in. We're doing a prompt to our user. It says system out print, enter the number of guests for the party. And then we have our scanner grab the next int and stores it in guests. Notice how the underline in guests went away. Notice how the underline on party went away, because apparently we're using that somewhere. We're using that right here. All right, so we prompt the user. We get the input from the keyboard in the form of an integer. And then, because we have created a party, which is a version of the party class, we now have available to us set guests, which is one of the features of the party class, set guests. So what do we do with set guests? We pass in a value. What is the value? What we just got from the keyboard. So let's say they typed in 30 guests, right? So this goes into the object called a party, which is an instance of this. It brings in the number of guests, which is 30. It takes 30, assigns it to the number of guests that are part of the object. So from here on forward, a party has 30 guests attached to it. That's just become part of it. And then we do an output. The party has a party.get guests. Now the get pulls the value back, and that should be 30 that it's pulling back. So it'll say the party has 30 guests. All right. All right. Finally, we're going to do this, which is to run a method from within that object. And this one's called display invitation. Of course, it will look at this as the blueprint, and it'll output, please come to my party. That's what that does. Just runs a method inside this object. Great time to save your work. All right, let's move on to the next step. So save the file, which we've already done, then compile and run the application, and it'll show you how it looks. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm just going to hit the run button here. It's going to invoke the console down here at the bottom. It says enter number of guests for the party. So I'm going to type 30, which is exactly what we anticipated, right? So everything is working as intended. Next step is to create a subclass based on the superclass of party. So let's begin that process. We're going to create a new class file called dinner party. So we're going to come back up here. We're going to right-click, new class. The name is dinner party. That is not going to have an executable component in it. But we need to add to it extends party. Now remember, in conception, what's going to happen here is that whatever we do with this as a way to create an object will have all the capabilities of party will follow. So not only will it have its own capabilities, it has all the capabilities of party as well. That's why we use the extends keyword. All right. So this will also have its own attribute here called dinner choice. So let's go ahead and drop that in. It also will have sets and gets for dinner choice. And then they want us to save the file. And now what we need to do is do a modification to our original use party program that will allow us to demonstrate that inheritance concept. All right, so they want us basically to create, actually not alter the one that we have, but create a new version of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this file here, and we can do this a couple of different ways. I guess the one way we can do is we can just copy, create a new class. We're going to call it use dinner party. And then aside from the name, we are going to paste in the whole rest of the program. We will have a little bit of a problem here because this doesn't need to be there. And this should be up above. All right, then they're going to have us do a couple of tweaks here. So one thing that we're going to do is create a new variable called choice. Copy that. I'll put that right after guests. And it says, after the statement that constructs the party object, type the following dinner party object declaration. Let's copy that. All right, so this is where party is being created, or a party is being created. And now we're going to create an instance of dinner party. And we're calling it a dinner party. Okay, the next thing it says is at the end of the main method, after the party object data invitation are displayed, add a prompt for the number of guests for the dinner party, accept the value the user enters and assign it to the object. Even though dinner party class does not contain a set guests method, its parent class does, so a dinner party can use the method. Okay, so they want us to put this after the party object data and invitation are displayed. I'm assuming, oops, that's not a copy, is it? And I'm assuming they mean here. You're going to tell me. All right, and the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to prompt for a dinner choice. So I'll just copy this over. All right, now let's walk through this code. So all of this is just doing the same thing that we've done before. But here we're doing a fresh prompt. We get the number of guests, store it in the variable again. But this time we're calling set guests, which looks like it's part of a dinner party, but a dinner party does not have set guests. But since it extends party, it has this capability here. So every time we create a dinner party object, it already has all of these things available to it. All right. Then we're going to do another prompt here. It says, enter the menu option, 1 for chicken or 2 for beef. It grabs that value, stores it in choice, and then it goes through and it says, a dinner party dot set dinner choice, sends the number in, and then it's going to do an output to see what we've done. It says, system out print line, the dinner party has how many guests? It pulls it back from get guests. But remember, that's part of party, not dinner party. And then it does another out menu option, and it indicates what that will be. Now, if you go back to a dinner party, it doesn't really tell us what, I don't see any chicken or beef here. Do you? All right. It says, even though the dinner party class does not contain a get guest, its parent class does, so a dinner party can use the method. A dinner party class uses its own set dinner choice and get dinner choice method. So it can use its own methods and it can use the superclass methods. Next, we're going to display the invitation. Once again, it's pulling from the superclass in order to do that. And that's going to be right there. Same thing we did above. And then when we run it, we should get this as an output. So let's see if that's actually the case. So go ahead and save your work, then come up and hit the run button. Oh, it says errors exist in the project. Time to give up. Go home, right? Nope. It's telling us that we have a problem. It says, exception in main, unresolved compilation problem, use dinner party main, line 5. What is going on here? There is a problem, though. So the question is, what is the problem? I know what the problem is, I think. Notice I scroll to the bottom of the file. Notice how there's a little underline. Notice how in the margin, and it says syntax error on token, delete this token. One too many curly braces, and that's enough to make it not compile. Let's try running it again. And now we got our prompt. Enter the number of guests. Let's use 30 again. Enter the number of guests for the dinner party. That'll be 25. Enter menu option. I have to go for the chicken this time. Right? And this is the output that we're expecting. So it's showing you that you have the capability to interact not only with the object that you created and its capabilities, but with the object that it's extending, or the class that it's extending. We are inheriting capabilities. So since, dinner or party has a certain number of guests, dinner party focuses more on the menu. I don't have to worry about doing the guest because I can just pull it from party. This is a very rudimentary example, but you could see that if you had maybe, 20 attributes and 50 methods within a class, my God, why would you want to rewrite those if you've already done the work? So that's really the point. All right. And I'm going to actually stop the video here. I think at this point, we actually already have enough capability learned just from that one you do it to help us on the path towards working on our project, for one thing, our final programming project, and also for completing the homework. Now, it is part of your assignment to go through and do all the you do it, so just go through them very methodically and get them all done. Remember, all the code's provided, and it's important that you read those numbered bullets that they have so you understand what's happening too. If you get stuck, you can always send me a line and I'll help you out. All right, so this video ends here.